Resonance podcast, a world of meaningful conversations, a tapestry of culture, and a symphony of creativity. In our episodes, we embark on a journey through the rich landscapes of arts and culture, where we uncover the stories and passions that shape our world. We delve deep into matters concerning your well-being and health, offering insights, advice, and inspiration to lead a better life. We also let the enchanting melodies of the world of music serenade our senses, transcending boundaries and connecting hearts. Join us on this exploration of knowledge, inspiration, and the human spirit. This is the podcast where ideas flourish and the joy of discovery awaits. So welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Mervelle Sage. I'm a 5-time best-selling author. I'm an educator by trade of 22 years, all things English, literacy, and I love mentoring students and working with teachers to help them implement best practices in the classroom as a literacy coach. And I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here and coming down to spend some time with me on today. I like the fact that you talked about your passion, which is literacy, sounds like, and your passion for young people. So can you kind of walk around the work that you do with young people in your life and definitely in the community in which you live?
There's different things that I do as a reading coach at my high school, Nature Coast Technical High School. One of the things I do is I work with teachers in implementing best practices in the classroom to make sure that students are successful. In that role, it's unique because although I don't have students tied to me, I get to interact with all the students in the school, and you'll be surprised how many of them just need that extra person to say, you can do it, you can pass, you can graduate. And so I'm like that motivational sounding board that the students look forward to seeing in the classroom. I'm also a big advocate for students with disabilities. My son, who's now a teenager, he's a student who has autism and narcolepsy, and I feel like as a parent, there weren't a lot of resources out there to support students of that nature. Additionally, I recruit a lot of young people to help me with my books. Like they do the illustrations because I can't draw to save my life. I may be creative, but that's not my forte. And then I also, through my work with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Theta Omega chapter, I support our youth group initiatives where we give them leadership skills and do volunteerism in the community, teach them about writing essays for college and different things just to support the youth. The young people are our future and they need advocates like us to continue to cultivate them to help them grow.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And, there's a big push in the world today about literacy for sure, and then even on down to early literacy.
Yes.
And I'm sure as an educator yourself that we must catch our young people early.
Definitely.
And I know that there's a big push in the early learning space to get more quality, childcare, and if we can start them at the ages of 3 and 4 around the topics of literacy, by the time they get to that 3rd grade benchmark that we all know is very critical in the state of Florida and most likely around the nation, we will start to see better outcomes. And so I know that that's a very passionate, part of yourself.
It starts in the womb. You'll be surprised. I remember when I was pregnant with my son, I'm very creative, so I love music too. Even from the womb, I would read to him, and certain reggae songs would play, and he would actually drum to the beat of the music. So from very young, if you're reading with your children, if you're pointing out stop signs, if you're pointing out colors, those little things matter. It starts in the home. When you have a home that is print rich and you really show the positiveness of being literate, it shows so that when they go to school, they're not afraid to learn to read. They just want to learn and grow.
It's just more natural to them.
It's more natural, yes.
And so, and then another one of your passions, you were mentioning about children with developmental disabilities. Ironically enough, that's also a passion of mine, and more so from a personal standpoint, I have a goddaughter who is on the autism spectrum, nonverbal, but very high functioning. And I've been in her life for pretty much all her life since pretty much the day that she was born. So I totally understand what it means to raise a child, with developmental disabilities, and the importance of creating that village.
Yes.
For those children, and then especially for minority children. So when we talk about even in the Black and Brown communities,
yes.
The resources that are available are not plentiful. And so it takes strong advocates like myself, like yourself, and others in the community to advocate for those families as well. And so that's definitely a blessing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure, we can probably do an entire episode.
Oh, that could be another podcast.
Centered
definitely,
around,
definitely.
raising young people with special disabilities. And
yes.
So talking about your writing creativity,
yes.
What inspired you? What inspired you to start writing?
I started writing from very, very young. I was kind of an introvert, believe it or not. And so writing became an outlet for me. Mm-hmm. I love journals. I keep them everywhere. I actually need a new one. But if anybody who knows me, I love a pretty journal and a pretty pen. I have them everywhere. I have one in the trunk of my car with a blanket because I like to sit on the beach and write. I have them in my purse, depending on the size. Every room of my house, everywhere that a journal needs to be, I have a pretty journal and a pretty pen. And it started as an outlet. It wasn't until high school when I wrote a poem for Black History Month that I didn't realize how good I was at writing poetry, and that this is something that I could really, really do. And then it really took off. And so I continued to write my poetry, and then I don't know, I went through college and I still wrote for stuff, more for myself. And then after I graduated and I had started working as a teacher here in Tampa, one day I said, I got to write a book. So here it is. I'm like, I'm going to write my first book. I've got all these poems. Mm-hmm. I need to do this. This is my bucket list. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And it was during a time of transition where I was going to move from Tampa. I had just had my son back home to live because I wanted to raise him there in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. And I said, I'm going to write this book before I leave. And that's how Shores of a Cinnamon Soul was born.
Awesome.
So this is my first book that I wrote. And it's really special. And it was the collection of poems and short stories that I created that kind of talked about me living back home and what life was like during that time. So,
okay. So, but actually, before we dive into the book,
sure.
You talked about back home.
Yes.
And you said back home is the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yes. I was born and raised on St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands.
Awesome. Yes. And I'm sure that just that experience alone was an amazing experience.
Oh, yeah.
And
home will always be home. I got two homes now. I got Florida and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
And forgive me if I'm going to get in trouble. I don't want to ask you your age, but at what point in your life was it that you transitioned into Florida, that you moved to Florida?
In 1996, I graduated high school, and I wanted to experience something different. I was a nerd, believe it or not. No, not believe it or not. But I come from a long line of educators and lawyers and just advocates and politicians, and my family is very well educated. And so although I had the opportunity to stay at the University of Virgin Islands, I wanted to experience something different. And so I was heavily recruited by the University of Tampa. And so I came to Tampa in 96 and went to school to pursue my bachelor's degree. So
awesome. And your bachelor's is in?
My bachelor's is in elementary education.
All right.
And at the time, my minor is in journalism. But funny enough, I started off with a bachelor's in communication and a minor in dance. I danced very young with the Caribbean Dance Company back home from 4 or 5 years old, all things creative and artsy. And then as things would have it, my joints don't like me, so like they say. So my freshman year, sophomore year of college, I was like, yeah, I can't do this for a lifelong time. And communication wasn't really I like liked the field, but it wasn't something that I felt that I could really do and get a job right out of college. So I made the switch to education, which came naturally to me. And so that's what I graduated with at the time. Yeah.
And so throughout that time, you were mentioning about journaling.
Yes.
And you've journaled
forever.
And it sounds like you continue to journal.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the catalyst that started the book.
Yes.
Shores of a Cinnamon Soul. So walk around the book and just kind of tell us, what's in it, some of the content, and what were some of the themes that you wanted to portray in the book?
So for this particular book, it was just all about my mom, Jewel Ross Brathwaite, who is also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So I am a legacy. She did the foreword for this book, and it was all about home and the experiences I had there. Life is my inspiration. Everything I write, of course, is semi-fictional, but life is my inspiration. And so you will see in the very first poem in this book, it's called Going Home. Okay, so I write with intentionality. So all my books kind of tell a story, even though they're poems.
Okay.
And they're organized in a particular sequence. I have poems about my grandmother. I have poems about being a Crucian, the festival, hurricanes. I was no stranger to hurricanes. Poems about teachers. And there's photos in here that I took back home to include in the book. I have poems about storytelling and my world and, the things that I thought about as a young person and a high schooler and about life in general. So that was this book, just a little piece of me. And everything I write, you get to know me a little bit.
Get to know you a little bit.
A little bit,
okay.
Yes.
And so what year was that
Shores of the Cinnamon Soul was published in 2007.
2007.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I see here you have a multitude of books, different books. And so the first one, Shores of a Cinnamon Soul, was about your life and the journals and the poems that you wrote on. Talk about this next one, Hanging with Uncle Eddie. Who is Uncle Eddie?
So Hanging Uncle Eddie all my books are special, but this one is special for the main reason that when I published Hanging with Uncle Eddie, it launched maybe a few months before my actual Uncle Eddie passed away.
Okay.
And my Uncle Eddie, he was amazing individual, and he was one of my biggest supporters of anything that I did.
Okay.
So when my son was born, I got forgotten. My Uncle Eddie was the type of person where he didn't have kids of his own, but we were his kids.
Okay.
And so he always sent me the seed money. Anytime I said I was going to publish another book, $200 would come. And he'd be like, here you go. Go do it. Go do it, Mervelle. You got this. Go do it.
That's awesome.
And so I published the book, and then all my other uncles, my mom has like 7, 8, 9 siblings. And they were like, oh, where's our book?
I know, right?
I have poems about my other uncles, and I've done stuff for him. But
and
when
so this book
he was in high school, I was a little girl. So he was my playmate.
Oh, okay.
And so this book was written about that memory, but ended up being written in memoriam for him.
And so was he young at heart, I take it?
Yeah, he was young at heart.
This image here is representative of yourself and Uncle Eddie.
This is his likeness, yes.
Awesome, okay.
Definitely.
And this is a kid's book?
It's a children's book. Yes.
And what was it that you were trying to portray to or that you are trying to portray to young people as they read this book or having it read to them?
So this book tells the story of Uncle Eddie and Anne and the bond that a niece and an uncle shares. And throughout the book, they play games, they read puzzles, and they spend time together. And it's home to me because a lot of things in her book really do represent me. It talks about, getting up and eating breakfast. Because every Saturday I used to, when I lived on my grandmother's property when we were younger, drive down on my pink, sparkly big wheel, and I would go and play with Uncle Eddie. There weren't other kids around. It was just me and my uncle, and he was in high school. So I'd go down there, drink my bush tea and my bun and cheese, and we would play games and chase the roosters in the yard and, hang out. And so it just captures those moments in time that you have with somebody that's real special in your life. And I'm happy to have it to share with others.
I know that you missed him dearly.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that it wasn't necessarily common when I was coming up to actually have other people from the family to help raise children, right?
Right.
So your more traditional families, mom and dad, children, but it's so prevalent nowadays that we have other people in our lives, that our young people actually have other people in their lives that come in and not parent, but more mentor,
Right.
Become a sounding board.
Yeah.
And I know oftentimes aunts and uncles are, they, young people can truly confide in an uncle that they won't necessarily confide in their own parent.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you all had some good times, and I'm sure
It's a different experience because your mom and your dad is your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
But Uncle Eddie will never judge.
Yes.
Uncle Eddie truly knew who I was, and he supported everything I did.
Everything you did.
And then spoke to me when he didn't think I did something too right and showed me the right direction.
That's right.
And you felt comfortable in that space.
That's
so
good.
I wanted the young people to understand that there are safe adults that you can reach out to, that you could feel comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And share those memories with.
So even
Definitely.
like if they're not, family members,
Exactly.
they could be
godparents.
Godparents. They could
teachers,
be teachers,
mentors, yes.
people in your church.
Yes.
So it's always good to, reach out to people, you know what I mean? People that you can truly trust, and that's going to have your back. And so it sounds like Uncle Eddie was that person for you.
You got to form your village. Your village ain't necessarily your family members.
No.
There's a village network out there that can really help you do what you have to do. And, I was a single parent for a very long time. And so if I didn't have my family and my village, there's no way that I would have been as great a mom as I was.
Correct.
You got to have that village.
And who you are today.
Exactly.
Awesome. So no, I think this is great. Let's move on to, when was Uncle Eddie published? So I'm just trying to establish a timeline.
My years, I want to say 2007, maybe 2011.
2011. Okay. All right. And so this next one here, which I love the cover. I love the cover.
Yes.
I think it's very artistic, and it probably says a lot about who you are. So would you like to introduce this book and what this one is all about?
It's one of my favorite poetry books. This is Carambola. And the cover was done by Wallace Fair, who was my best friend from elementary school. And he is a true artist. I said, look, Wally, I got his book. I need a cover for this book because, I can't draw. And he's like, I got you. And I shared my vision with him, and he was able to get my vision to life.
Awesome.
And Carambola is a collection of romantic poetry. So it's definitely for the grown and sexy. And it was a very fun book to write because it showed that other side. And then it was loved by women and men alike. And the women used to call it, the poetry book for their purse. So they'll keep it in their purses and read it in the middle of the grocery store. And, I had a good time writing Carambola.
That's good. And you were mentioning, your readers carrying it around with them.
Yes.
What would you say is the most opportune time to really dive into the work? This work.
Poems and books is for any time. But, in the evening, some of my readers have said that they've read it with their husbands or their significant others, and it was a good time to do that. Some read it alone in a quiet space. Mm-hmm. They read Carambola. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't suggest reading with children, of course.
Okay.
That's not for them. But definitely a good read. And like I tell you, all my books tell a story. So This book plays off of the carambola fruit. If you know anything about the star fruit, I grew up eating the star fruit. They used to grow in droves around my grandmother's home in the bush, down Lorraine Village. And me and my cousin Foster, we would go down there and just eat mangoes and pick carambola fruit. And if you ever tasted the star fruit, it's tangy and it's kind of sweet. And so the book is separated. You have the tangy, so you have that tangy poetry and romance poetry, and then you have the sweet side. And so it's separate that way. And all my poetry books tell a story. So each poem kind of develops based on a theme and develops itself to the end. So.
And was this birthed out of journaling as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
That's awesome. And again, the cover of it is great. And I did get a chance to read some of the poems in here as well. This one called Asleep.
Yes.
Asleep, creature of the night, trapped to wander the shallow cell, cold, clammy, damp, walls beating sweat. The sound of heavy sleeping resonates in deaf ears. Nighttime creepy crawlers enjoy their feast, relishing in the symphony, scratching critter movements, humming filler scenes, free to enjoy their nighttime scene. Creature of the night, alone, alone, alone. No ghost shadows to keep, karma's thirst. Abysmal windows cease to whisper and whine from Earth's gravitational pressure. Oh, how the glow from the century moon reflects upon those who lie in waiting.
Yeah.
Asleep.
I love words. And so I'm you got a little flow there, Dara. I'm going to have to invite you to the open mic.
Why we didn't get the snaps? I want the snaps.
I'm going to have to invite you to the open mic to do your thing now. Get ready.
I'm not no, trust me, I'm not a poet.
Get ready.
I'm not
Everybody's
a
a poet. Everybody's a writer.
Really?
Everybody has a story to tell. Not everybody will be as passionate about it as I am, but everyone has a story that they can tell in their own way.
It's so funny, even just in what I just read. So when I came up with the title of my podcast, Reflective Resonance, wanting to reflect on, life's past and, basically having those experiences resonate to the world. So I always feel like, our living is not in vain.
No.
Right? So we go through the experiences of life to be able to tell our story. Yeah. And that's really what my podcast is truly all about. And so again, when I learned your story, I said, I like that.
You gotta tell your story.
You gotta definitely tell your story.
That's how we continue in this world, and that's how we learn. We learn from the experiences of others. And I'm a firm believer that my mom was a storyteller. And so I'm a firm believer of passing on stories to others so that we can learn from each other and grow.
Correct. And, and I mentioned this in a previous episode of the podcast, one of the other things that I want is for stories to get passed down from generation to generation within the family.
Yes.
Oftentimes, especially in the African American community, we have a ton of stories, right, that we can pass down about, our history, our family's history. But it truly oftentimes never gets archived, never gets written down.
It doesn't.
And then, as we know, as family members pass on, so do those stories.
Yeah, they do.
And so that's just a personal thing of mine that I want to eliminate out of my family is just
Dara,
get these stories down.
It starts with the elders and the respect for the elders. Our young people have gotten away a little bit from respecting our elders. I remember growing up and sitting with my grandparents and listening to them respectfully. And if you listen and you sit to those people who've already lived, the stories are there, but they're not as willing to listen now, and so we have to, again, it starts at home. Yeah. You have to show that respect and let them learn to listen.
And so, and then oftentimes, we still have to, of course, respect our elders, but also recognize that young people receive messages in different ways, right?
Agreed.
So nowadays things are all about, the social media, the TikToks, and the Instagrams and all that. Now Facebook is reserved for us, right? Because
Isn't that funny? They
don't see
my
us.
My son are like, I didn't see no posts. I'm not on Facebook, Ma. You need to get an Instagram.
Yeah,
I said,
they don't even
Lord.
recognize Facebook as a social media outlet.
They don't.
And so that's another way to truly, reach, the young people. But we have to be creative.
Yes.
We have to be creative and get those messages out. And I'm a firm believer that if we show our children the right way, as they grow, they will remember, even though they may not outwardly show it.
Yeah.
But when they go off to college, like, I have my 2 children right now are in college. I know that they're okay because they will remember the teachings that, myself and their mother and grandparents have, taught them. And so I'm definitely a firm believer in that. And so although we think our young people won't, remember what we've taught them, trust me, they do.
They do.
And I think you and I, and I'm sure a lot of our other friends, are testimonies in that. So this next book really is what truly intrigued me to your work when I found out about this one.
Yes.
So this one is called Arturo Sleeps.
Yes.
And the theme of it is talking about pediatric narcolepsy.
Yes.
Can you talk about what narcolepsy is and how you came to be passionate about it? And then we'll dive into the book itself.
So that book will make me cry a little bit, but not today. So narcolepsy is a sleep disorder that affects many people that a lot of people don't know about. It's becoming more prevalent now with the research. Pretty much, it's like the sleepy syndrome. And people who suffer with narcolepsy sleep at any time. Mm-hmm. 1 minute they're wide awake, the next minute they're asleep. I really wanted to talk about this because, as I said, my son, he has narcolepsy, but he also had autism. And it was kind of hard to get him the support that he needed because there wasn't a lot out there beyond medication to support his sleepy habit. It really sometimes belittles their life because they sleep a lot of it away. So imagine teenagers sleep a lot naturally.
Sure.
So imagine a teenager sleeping 8-9 hours a day. So as a teenager with narcolepsy may sleep 14 to 15 to 18 hours a day,
Straight
through. And sometimes you can't wake them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't wake them. And sometimes you wake them and they may have automatic movements and motions where you think they're awake and they're not. Almost like a sleepwalking type state. Mm-hmm. Safety also becomes an issue sometimes because usually students, individual narcolepsy don't drive because they may be driving and fall asleep. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the ability to sleep is instant. Sometimes they can tell when it's coming on and sometimes they can't. Mm-hmm. So I was really passionate about this. I wrote this with my son. This is his first book. And it came at a time where I was able to see when he slept because we were on shutdown with COVID. Mm. So this book is fairly new. We're in 2023. I published this, I believe, the early 21. And we were in COVID. And I said, you know what? I haven't written for a while because Carambola came out like 2014, 2015, around that time. And life happened. I relocated back here to Tampa in 2017. And I was like, we need to write another book, Mervelle. You have things sleeping, time to get your creative juices back now that you've settled again. And so he was like, Ma, he's always said, I want to write a book with you. I said, sure, let's write about this. And so we wrote it together. And here came Arturo Sleeps. And I did my research, and there aren't any, there may be now, but when I did my initial research, there weren't any books out there that talked about the experience that a young person had with narcolepsy. And I'm always about providing information in creative ways, and I felt like this would be something good for students to read and have a better, more understanding, because I saw how my son suffered at times in school. When you don't know about things, children can be mean.
Yeah.
And when you don't know about things, adults can be mean too.
Sure.
And they may not know how to deal with or interact with an individual with a disability that they can't help.
Mm.
And I wanted to be able to write something that will bring some understanding and awareness to what a child goes through when they have this disability.
So one of the things that I thought was pretty unique about it was that you did this in the form of a children's book.
Yes.
Why a children's book? And because typically when I think of a disability or centered around anything, it's normally from a professional lens. It's from an adult lens. Why a children's book?
Because number one, I'm nobody's doctor. Number two, I did my research and I wanted the lens of a student. Being a teacher and being in a classroom and seeing how other students interact with students of any disability, sometimes it breaks my heart because they are children too. They are people too, and they deserve to be understood. And I wanted to write something that will help young people understand what students of narcolepsy is going through, with hopes that they will get out of it and be more empathetic or have a little more compassion with these individuals.
Sure.
Because I saw how it affected my son. Luckily, my son did well. He's 19 years old right now. He's looking into avenues of going into graphic arts design and trying to make his way. But it was really difficult. It was difficult. There were days where he couldn't go to school because he didn't wake up in time. And there were days where students and teachers who didn't understand thought he was just playing around and he was just joking and he was purposely not wanting to be obedient or doing things when honestly he was crippled by his disability. Mm-hmm. And it's hard when you have to see not only your own children but other students go through something and people don't understand. So I felt like this brings understanding. I feel like children can relate and adults. It breaks it down in a way that adults can relate and possibly share with their children so that they can learn compassion and empathy for others.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so there's a nice illustration on the front, but then also as you flip through it, there's some great illustrations in there. And so are you the artist?
Oh, no.
You're not the artist?
I am not the artist.
You're not the artist.
The artist, this book was illustrated by Darion Christopher, and she is the daughter of Regal Christopher, who is the owner of a fashion design business called Designs by Regal, who is well known for her Madras creations, which is the local culture cloth back home in the Virgin Islands and in the Caribbean. And she's a dear friend of mine. And Darion is a college student here in Florida. I think she's in Orlando studying marine biology. Okay. Brilliant young lady. And I've always seen her artwork. And so one day I was like, I like to use the young people. Young people have a chance to shine. And even if she doesn't become a illustrator by trade, she would have had that experience. Sure. And her artwork was beautiful when her mom shared it with me. And I reached out and she said, yes, I'll do this for you. And so I pay these young people. It's business. Yeah. We got contracts and stuff. And so she did a beautiful job bringing my ideas and my son's ideas to life.
And so you gave her your idea.
Yes. And I told her exactly what I wanted. And she brought it to life.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Shout out to Darion.
Yes.
Shout out to Darion. So, and then your most recent work is called Passion and Purpose. So we've talked about Shores of a Cinnamon Soul. We've talked about Hanging with Uncle Eddie. We've talked about Karen Bola. We've talked about Arturo Sleeps. And all four of those have different themes and shows different sides to you, yes. Right? This last one, or the latest one, I should say, is Passion and Purpose.
Correct.
All right. And it says 21 inspiring stories from women in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Passion and Purpose. 21 inspiring stories from women in the U.S. Virgin Islands on business, leadership, and life.
Yes.
So wait a minute. You got 21 people.
Well, I ain't taking all credit for that. I am a co-author of the book.
Right.
Visionary authors Vanessa Farrell and Johanna Samuel approached me about this anthology project. And so what they did, they're dear friends of mine, they brought together 21 inspiring authors to talk about their life. I mean, these stories, will make you cry. Like, I've read every chapter of the book, and each of us wrote our chapter about our life.
Okay.
And how we came to business and life and how we triumphed over adversity. And so it really showed how you could take your passion and turn it into purpose. Some of the women featured in the book have owned businesses. Some have never published. And again, the opportunity to publish and tell their story and to expand their passion into other platforms. Through this book, my chapter in the book is called You Too Can Bloom. And through publishing this book with these ladies, I was able to start my Bloom campaign and to start to market myself in the light that I really wanted to and take off from there. And so it's a very special anthology to me. I got to work with some exceptional Virgin Island women, Caribbean women, and to really, we support each other. Yeah. We support each other's endeavors. This book led to many of us doing our own podcasts, publishing other books, and expanding our businesses and truly reaching everyone and motivating them to just do great and be who they are. Some of the women experience cathartic experiences about letting out their stories of love, loss, abuse, you name it. So it's a very personal and dear book to me and everyone who helped write it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Are all of these women of the same age or around the same age, or are we talking multi-generational?
I'm talking multi-generational. We have business women, we have nurses, we have educators, we have some women who I would assume are older than me. We all look young. Yeah. And some who may be my age or younger.
Okay.
And so it's multi-generational. They come from different facets. Most of them live in either St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, yes, Virgin Islands. Some of us are Virgin Islands who live away, such as myself, and some of the others who live in Atlanta and different areas.
And how did you find these women?
A lot of them I kind of knew, but I always believe in energy and good energy and karma. I'm a big advocate for that because I walk in the light and I move on purpose. And some of these women I've worked with before when I lived back home doing other advocacy pursuits and stuff. And so one of my friends reached out to me. She's a lawyer back home. Her name is Lydia Molinar, one of the co-authors. And she said, look, there's this project coming up and you got to do this with me. I'm going to write my first book, my first chapter. I need you on this. You're an author, Mervelle. I need you on this. So I'm like, okay. Send me the info. Like, oh, this costs money. I pick and choose what I want to do because I move with intention. Mm-hmm. So I put it down. I didn't study it. Another individual reached out to me, Dr. Kanuma Simmons, and she runs a store called My Girlfriend Closet, and my books have been carried in her store. I've done book signings in her store, and I always supported her. I support small business when her store first started, and I bought some of her clothing. And she's like, girl, this book, you got to be a part of this book. They're looking for some women. You got to be part of it. So I was like, something going on here. I got this person asking me about this. Kanuma is asking me about this. This Girlfriend Closet asking me about this because she's all about girlfriendism, and we're all about supporting queens and supporting women. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. So then Johanna Samuel approached me. She said, we have in this anthology, I'm a visionary author. And I said, you know what, Johanna, yes. You are the third woman to have approached me about this anthology. So obviously it is meant for me to do so. I'm on board. Let's go for it. And so that's how that happened.
That's awesome.
That's how that happened. So.
I know that it's pretty successful.
Yes. I became best-selling status and maybe a best-selling author. Yay! And
awesome.
It has touched and impacted women and individuals across the world just by reading the stories. Yes.
And so in your opener, you talked about being a 5-time best-selling author.
Yes.
We're looking at 5 books in front of us. And so that means that each one of them have done so pretty well. Where can we get these books?
These books are all located on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. I also have a website, www.vellespociations.com. You can reach out to me directly. I'm on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok yet, guys. I can't get with the tickety-talk yet. You know, I'm from that Facebook generation, MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace?
No, MySpace. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely reach out on Facebook and Instagram if you want a personal autograph copy. I am working on the website, so it is going to be under construction a little bit more because I want to make it more user-friendly for my fans. But if you Google me, I'm there. You can get an autograph copy from me or order it on Amazon, you know.
Okay, awesome. Can you talk about what is some of your processes to your writing? How do you start your thoughts, and then how do they end up into what we see here today?
Life experience. I'm an Aquarius, and so I'm attracted. I'm an air sign, but I have a special infinity with the water, being an island girl. So the beach is like my safe and happy space, and a lot of my writing is done in safe and happy spaces. Now that I'm living in the States and I'm not as close as the water as I'd like, and in my backyard right there, like it used to be back home, I tend to go to the beach and watch sunsets, and I would take my journal and spend a couple hours there and write. I've set up my back patio of my new home as kind of like my sanctuary space. We just put up some nice fluorescence lights, and I'll sit on my back patio and you'll catch me there writing. I journal every night before I go to sleep. I have a journal next to my bed and I write about my day or things, and those can turn into other things. When I was younger, I had a fever, a kind of a writing fever before life and adulting happened. So it could be anywhere. And that's what I got in the habit of having journals, because it could be on the bus stop. I'm taking a bus between college classes. I'm writing on a bus billboard. I'm writing on a napkin. I'm sitting in a car. I got to pull over and write on something. Wow. And so my inspiration comes from many places. As an adult, I have to make more time to be inspired and to write, because, you know, as adults, we have other responsibilities that take us away from that time. But life inspires me. I get inspired by life. I move on vibrations, and sometimes I could be sitting anywhere and a poem comes. And then I take it and I put it down, and my poetry has to rest. My books have to rest. You know, our Carambola took us several years to write. Hanging with Uncle Eddie was kind of sitting there, and I one day like, okay, we publishing this year. And then I put it out there and I edited it, and it was time to go, you know? And so, you know, it just happens in that way.
Yeah, and it just happens what I call organically.
It happens organically, yes.
And it's good to hear that, you know, what I hear in everything that you're talking about is that none of this comes from a rushed standpoint. No. It's not something that you come up with today and you say you want to put something out by the first of the year. There really is no, it sounds like there's really no
Well, I
no
set
time
deadlines frame. Because you never want to have, it is also a business. And as I learned the business, you never want to have something sitting there for too long. And so I set deadlines. That don't mean it always happens my way. Sure. I learned that a long time ago. However, it happens when it's supposed to. And by me setting that deadlines, especially now that I'm an adult and I get busy doing all the other things that come along with it, it allows me to keep myself at a certain pace, even if I don't necessarily meet that publishing deadline. It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. Okay. Yeah.
So you talked about your method to writing, and I heard you say things like you don't need to, but you like to create ambiances.
Yes.
So that's sitting on the beach, or even creating a soft space in your home to get the creative juices flowing. I'm sure through all of that, it doesn't come easy. So can you talk about what are some of the challenges that you faced when writing, your works and anything else that you may have going on?
Writer's block happens. It's a real thing. Sometimes you get something started and you get stuck and you just can't get back to it. So, you know, like I say, I like to have my writing rest. Some of the poems in Carambola rested for several years before they got published. And then I like to just write raw and let it rest. And then when my mind is clear and my spirit and my body and my vibration is in the space to revisit it, then I revisit my writing, and then I edit it and I reform it and I transform it. And so sometimes you have those hiccups. Publishing is not cheap. There are new innovative ways to publish through Amazon Kindle, Ingram, and things that you can publish. And for me, it really is a passion because although my books have all been well received, I'm nowhere rich by them. And I'm okay with it because I'm getting my voice out there.
Sure.
I'm affecting change. If something big happens out of it, excellent. But I'm quite content with what I've produced and what I've done.
Yeah, that's good. Again, wanting to, put together polished works.
Yes.
And like you said, it's not always about money.
No.
And the same thing with podcasting, right? I don't do this for
Right.
money. I do this, to be able to, create pathways to tell stories.
Yes.
And so clearly, like we were talking about before, you've done well. And I'm sure, again, you've overcome a lot of challenges. You talked about this thing called writer's block.
Yes.
And in today's world, it's easy to overcome writer's block with, this new innovation called AI.
Oh, no, I'm not a fan.
And that's what I was going to say. I was going to ask you, how do you feel about that? I know that there's a lot of people that rely on AI, the chat GPTs and whatever other services that are out there. Can you talk about how you feel about that? And where do you see that fitting in today's world of literacy?
I'm a bit scared by it. As an educator and a writer who writes organically, I'm scared by it because I see students using it to do their school assignments and using it. Technology and innovation is amazing, but I'm not seeing creative, original thought coming because of it. And I believe in creative and original thought. And so for me, I will not be using ChatGPT or AI to write my poetry. I want my work to be original and organic and based on life experience. I mean, how can you learn if you're letting the computer learn and write for you?
Right.
Is that really true knowledge? Is that a primary source, as we say in education, or a secondary source? A lot of times, you could Google it in Bing, a question, and it'll tell you the sources it gets the information from. You're getting it from Wikipedia. Humans inform Wikipedia. So you're taking humans' potential knowledge and turn it into something that you want to claim as your own. I want my work to be mine and a reflection of my own thought and learning and experiences, not some computer. That's just my take on it.
I think that's good, and I agree. I will say that, it does have a certain place in the world, but not when it comes to creative writing.
Exactly.
Right? So talking about challenges, what would you say are some of the antidotes to your challenges? Writing challenges.
My writing challenges, prayer, and giving myself grace. I am older. I dabble in a lot of little things. So I've learned to give myself grace. And then I've learned to kind of schedule what I call self-care and writing me time where I really know that this is where I'm going to do, where I'm going to sit in this space and I'm going to give dedicated time to get over the writing block. If I'm stressed out, I give myself self-care so that I can release whatever the burdens are of the world, because I cannot write if I'm overly stressed or overburdened. But then at the same time, some of my best work came with adversity. And I find that writing more breaks the block. So sometimes I may have a writer's block and I decide to still write. When I do that, I'm using one of my other journals that's just meant for personal writing, where I write down every word, no matter how bad the grammar is. It could be a bad word. I'm angry about something. You'll see scratches on the page. You see exclamation points, bad words. You see colors. But I let it out on the page. And then after I let it out the page, I take a deep breath and it stays there. Because I'm learning to let go of things. When you hold on to certain things, it blocks your blessings. It blocks your ability to move forward. And, I talk a good talk because I'm a good motivational speaker, but, sometimes you don't always take your own medicine.
Sure.
But I'm learning to take my own medicine and to practice those roadblocks and to find ways. And if the time ain't right now, it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in time and place. When the time is right for that book or for that action or for that opportunity, it will be right for you and it will happen in the way it's supposed to, because remember, our steps are already ordered by Jah. They're already ordered. What's planned for me has already been ordered and stepped, and I believe that.
It's just up to us to kind of walk into
that purpose.
Walk into that purpose.
To cultivate it, You have to work towards it. You got to put in the work. You don't get your blessings for free. It comes with work and positivity, and as long as you operate it in integrity and honesty, it will come into play.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. And so when we were talking about passion and purpose,
Yes.
you mentioned your chapter birthed another chapter in your life.
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about that birthing process and what is it today?
So
what does it look like today?
Yes, the title of my chapter is "You Too Can Bloom," and so I'm always about motivating and helping people. I've always had a very helpful spirit, which you should not be surprised, being that I'm part of one of the most successful volunteer organizations, and we serve our community. I'm a servant leader by right. And, I have a love for people and my community and helping others. So I started the You Too Can Bloom campaign, which, you see my sparkly pretty shirts. The hibiscus flower is very symbolic to me. It represents beauty and growth and change. And I feel like despite anybody's circumstances, you can pull yourself out of it and you too can bloom. And so through my Bloom campaign, I actually brought you a gift. So I created what I call my bloom boxes. Okay. I brought Daryl a gift for y'all today. And inside your bloom box, I do have them for sale for about $50 or so on the website. I got him his own Bloom t-shirt. Wow. So in his Bloom box, he has his own Bloom t-shirt. He also has an autographed copy of the Passion and Purpose anthology.
Okay.
I also created a journal because everybody should write, even if it's for yourself. Let it out on the page. So you see my You Too Can Bloom journal. And then it comes with a pen. And yes, I like butterflies. Daryl likes butterflies too. He'll be fine. He can give it to his goddaughter. She gonna like the journal and the butterfly pen because butterflies symbolizes change. We can always change and materialize into what we really want. We have setbacks, but don't let us stop you. You could still bloom. You too can bloom. You gotta keep,
I love it.
Like my auntie, Janice Grant, she loved my blooming thing. Everything she posts on Facebook is, we're blooming. Look at the bloomer. Don't forget you can bloom.
Because remember, not only is it about the campaign, but it's also about the branding.
It's about the branding.
It's about the branding.
My auntie branded me without me even trying. Yeah. She ran with it. And then I made these bookmarks, and I tend to give my students these bookmarks whenever they do something great. And it just says, continue to water the seeds of knowledge, persevere and grow, bloom bright. And so from that chapter, I started my brand and my blooming campaign, awesome. And I've really moved into motivational speaker.
Let's leave that. We got to let the people see.
He want his stuff.
Yeah, we got to let the people see my stuff. You know what I mean?
So you got your T-shirt, and when you wear your T-shirt, you got to rep. Make sure you tag me in your picture.
Oh, we'll definitely rep. Well, I'm going to rep proud.
And so these are available on my website for sale.
Yeah, okay.
And I have extra Bloom box for our viewers.
Okay.
And Daryl's going to set it up. And so he's going to do the drawing. I left it up to him. And so
we're going to do it together.
Someone of our viewers.
We're going to do it together. We're going to go live.
Yes.
We're going to go live together.
Yes.
And we will come up with a sweepstakes, so to speak.
Yes, definitely.
We'll do it through likes and shares, and we'll come up with what that looks like. We'll go live.
Definitely.
We'll do a virtual spin the wheel, and whoever wins
gets
their
Bloom
we're
package.
actually going to sweeten the pot.
Ooh.
And we're going to add reflective resonance T-shirts as well.
Love it.
So we'll definitely sweeten the pot to spread the love, and that's truly what it's all about.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So, and thank you so much for these wonderful gifts. I'm not a writer but you and there's a lot of other people who tell me I have gifts.
You have gifts, yeah.
And so many people who know me personally know that my gift is music, right? So they know me
Awesome.
as DJ Daryl, and now podcast Daryl, and music producer Daryl. Who that's soon to come. So
I need
everyone
to
stay
come
tuned for
record
that.
in your studio.
See, of
I've got a
course.
song written and I've
Is
got the
that right?
beats. Yes, I do
You
sing
got
too.
the beats and the song?
Yes.
Well,
I've
that's
got
what
it
we'll
ready.
be
I just
doing
need
next.
a studio to record.
Well, that's
I'm your girl.
Okay. All right. I love it. So, just turning the page a little bit.
Sure.
Talk about some of the work that you do in the community. We talked about obviously what your passions are, but what does that look like in the community?
So I do a lot of workshops. I do workshops on poetry for healing. And when I do my workshops, I get young people or even sometimes businesses together, and I teach them how to write poetry and how to journal as a form of healing, because journaling can definitely be a form of healing. And then a lot of times I meet with youth groups, and we do workshops on leadership skills. I facilitate a lot of youth groups. Recently, with my school, we've worked with some of the teachers to do poetry out loud. If you've heard of the National Poetry Out Loud competition, and weekly, I work with one of my other teachers, Ginia St. Ledger, who's also an author, and we do poetry cafes at the school where students can now write and recite their own poetry.
Okay.
A lot of the work I do, of course, is with the organizations I'm involved with my chapter and sorority. We have different youth groups that I tend to help and support as well. So, and I'm the outgoing second vice president of my chapter, and also the scholarship chair. And so, through my work with the organization, we were able to award our heritage scholars some scholarships to be able to go to college. I'm big on education, as well as we're offering two $2,000 scholarship through the Hillsborough Education Foundation for individuals who would like to pursue degrees. So.
And is there a talk about that scholarship process, if you don't mind? Is there I guess how would someone apply for those?
To apply for that $2,000 scholarship, you simply go to the Hillsborough Education Foundation website. You look under their scholarships. They have several different scholarships, and you look for the Gamma Theta Omega chapters. Going Greater Scholarship, and the application is there online. And then applications open November 1st, and you can apply up until January 30th. And once our recipients are chosen, we will then also have a scholarship recipient. We will celebrate those individuals who got those scholarships.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. And they're all young ladies from this area?
Hillsborough County.
Hillsborough County.
Yeah, it could be young ladies or young men.
Oh, young men as well.
Yep.
Awesome.
Students. And it's my hope. I'm building my business currently, but it is my hope eventually to offer individual scholarships on my own through Vels Occasions for aspiring authors like myself. So we're working on it. I'm working on it.
So it sounds like you're a beacon to those that want to write.
Yes.
Those that want to do poetry.
Yes.
Those that want to do community service as well.
Definitely.
And I kind of hear that you're also a community organizer.
I'm trying.
You're trying. So.
I work better with other organizations. Like,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm a servant leader. So like, I do stuff on my own here and there, but I feel like, I'm one person. But when you can work with others and you can bring everybody's talents together, then we truly can make an impact. And so I like to partner with everyone to do the work that I do.
So who would you say are people who are inspirational to you?
Well, my favorite poet is Maya Angelou, the great Maya Angelou. I was very inspired by her work. I'm also inspired by one of the local authors back home. His name is Richard Schroeder. And, I used to own a bookstore back home in St. Croix when I lived there, when I relocated back there after my son was born. And when I reached out to him, he was one of the first to say, yes, I would love to have copies of your books in my store. And so those two individuals really inspired me. I'm a big fan of Amanda Gorman. That young lady is dynamic and multi-talented, like just on top of it. And, my lawyer friend, Lydia Molinar, her daughter, Jalissa Emile, I remember when she was growing up, and she's now a very inspirational dub poet artist as well. And I'm recently married, and my husband is a 3 times world-renowned dub poet artist, and his name is Rastakura, and he's traveling right now, and he is also a poet and very a dynamic spoken word artist, and I'm very inspired about the way he can perform, because I do good with the writing, but getting on stage, I'm nervous every time, and I make it work.
I was going to say, I don't. It doesn't look like...
This is me working through my adrenaline.
Right.
I make it work, but it's not a simple process for me to get there. I can do it, but he is truly amazing. Every time he performs his performances on stage, I just aspire to try to get there eventually. Yeah. So there are many people that inspire me. Like I said, my family is very supportive of all the things that I do, and I'm inspired by the hard work that they put in and the support that they give, knowing that, I can bloom.
Yeah.
I can do it all. You can do it all.
And that's your village.
That's my village.
So
that's
even though
my village
we talked about
right
having
there.
villages,
yes.
For our families, yes. But we too must have a village. I have mine, and you definitely sound like you have yours, yes. and I love it. For anyone that is looking to become an author,
yes.
What advice would you provide to them?
Just do it. Like, if you want to become an author, just do it. Like I tell my students and people I talk to anything that you want to do in this life, you could do. Yes, I'm an educator by trade, but I do it all. I sing, I dance, I write, I cook. I'm a real good cook.
Wait.
Yeah, I cook.
Wait, say this again. You sing.
I sing.
You write.
I write.
But then you said...
I dance.
You dance.
I cook.
And you cook.
Yes, I love to cook. I cook and I bake. I ask my 30 sisters.
Stay tuned. Because when I said multi-talented,
yes,
real deal multi-talented.
I cook. I love to cook. Cooking is another form of therapy for me. Okay. So if life happens. When life happens, I'm like, I'm gonna try this new recipe today. Why cook today? Let's see. In the kitchen, and you'll see on some of my social media me posting some of my little dishes and stuff. So I do everything. Anything I want to do, I try to do. And I tell people, young people especially, I have a heart for working with the youth. You don't stop yourself.
Sure.
If you want to write a book, write the book. If it get published today, next year, in 10 years, so what? You did it.
Yeah.
Don't let your failures stop you. Your failures are a stepping stone to success. You too can bloom. There's many plants that go dormant in the winter. Mm-hmm. But by the spring, they bloom again. Like the butterfly starts out as a caterpillar, and then it becomes this beautiful butterfly. You too can change and transform. And make a plan and work your plan. All of this greatness just don't happen overnight. I usually write down the type of goals that I have for my life, and I make a plan and I work my plan, and I take baby steps towards it. And then I've learned to... I'm kind of an analytical person. Like, I want it now, but I've learned that it ain't gonna always happen now. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. Okay. And as long as you keep the right people around you, and I said the right people who are going to motivate you and encourage you when you're down, people who are going to push you and support you around you, anything can happen.
Yes.
Anything can happen.
I agree.
Don't limit yourself.
You're a living witness, as I am as well. Your company... Mervelles.
Caucasians. Yes.
Tell us about that.
So Velle's Occasions, again, was birthed out of my writing. I started Velle's Occasions, I want to say in 2008. I had just relocated back home, and I'm all about entrepreneurship and working for yourself. And I had written the first book, and I was about writing the next one. And I really wanted to cultivate my creative arm separate and apart from my educational side. And so I started Velle's Occasion in 2008, and it pretty much is a vehicle for me to display my books and my writing and my workshops and my poetry. So that's how Velle's Occasion started. And so I've just continued to grow it and cultivate it. And every year it changes with the season. And some years I promote it more than others, but it's still like my baby and something that I really,
so it sounds like it goes back into your creativeness as well.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you said it ebbs and it flows.
It ebbs and it flows.
One of the things that irks me is just being stagnant.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And, I love the fact that, I mean, even if you just take a look at the books here, I mean, different topics, and it's clearly multifaceted. What's next?
Well, so coming hopefully next year, I'm working on it. It will be a sequel to Carambola. It's going to be called Carambola Passion. It will be another collection of romantic poetry. And when I tell you, it is a good one. I'm very excited about this next version. I'm stepping out a little bit more out of my comfort zone, and I'm really looking forward to push this one out next year. Now, like I said, I give myself timelines. It don't always work that way, but it's almost finished, and I'm really excited to go there. And so, as you know, I love to play on words. So we started off with Carambola, and now with Carambola Passion, we're merging the Carambola and the passion fruit. So you'll have the Carambola side, it's tangy and sweet. Mm-hmm. And then you have the passion fruit side. And so, as you know, my books, they always tell us kind of a story. They're organized in a particular way, in a particular flow. So I'm very excited about it. And so stay tuned for Carambola Passion.
And we'll definitely be sure to support that work, as well as all your previous works as well. This has been great.
Yes.
This has been great. And as I said in my last episode, I always feel like there should be part 2.
Yeah.
A part 2, part 3,
4,
a follow-up
whatever you need.
to what we've started here.
Sure.
And I know I kind of joked around about your other talents.
Yes.
But, why not bring those, talents?
Sure.
So right now I'm in a space where I am interviewing authors, right? So literary works. But some of the other things that I also want to kind of dabble into is obviously music. Music is a true passion of mine, in itself. And then you just gave me another idea about cooking and all these other things. I was like,
you gonna make me cook on the air?
God, of course. Oh,
no.
Of course. And then, I love the Caribbean side of you, right? And so those that know me, and I'll be very transparent, those people who truly know me know that I love Caribbean culture. I love, the passion, the traditions, the music for sure. So I'm sure you probably even heard, some of my, I won't say fake accent coming out, but I love it. I love that aspect of it. And so would absolutely love to have you back on.
Definitely.
Back on the show. And you mentioned your husband and the work that he's doing.
Yeah, we got to bring him on.
He'll be on as well. He doesn't know it just yet, and he'll probably find out.
He gonna know now
through the podcast. So again, thank you so much, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Definitely.
So,
thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Say Jah the King, Jah the King, and me say creativity. Jah the King, and me say Jah the King, Jah the King, and me say creativity. Jah the King, and me say Jah the King, Jah the King, and me say creativity. Jah the King, and me say Jah the King, Jah the King, and me say you see what the King. Jah the king, and me say create everything. Jah the king, and me say Jah the king. Jah the king, and me say create everything. Jah the king, and me say Jah the king. Jah the king, and me say create everything. Jah the king, and me say Jah the king. Jah the king, and me say yes, he want the king.
Thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Reflective Resonance Podcast. Your commitment to listening and watching our episodes means the world to us. It's your engagement that fuels our passion for creating meaningful content and exploring diverse topics. Please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to share us throughout your social networks. This has been another episode of the Reflective Resonance Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you next time.